Hi students, myself Tanmoy Dotto, Assistant Professor, Department of Chemistry, JS College of Engineering, Kollani. Welcome you all in my 6th lecture of air pollution. Today we'll discuss about the atmospheric stability, temperature inversion, relative humidity and dew point, and cloud classification. And with this also we will discuss today the lapse rate. Okay, so there are two types of lapse rate present, so we'll discuss also these things. So first of all, what is the atmospheric stability? Atmospheric stability means a rising air expands. Okay, all of you know, with increasing the altitude, the air expands because of a less atmospheric pressure. With increasing the altitude, the atmospheric pressure decreases. The expansion causes the air to cool. That means temperature will be decreases. If you look the picture carefully, so just concentrate here that the at the ground level the temperature is 30 degrees C. But with increasing the altitude, that increases the height, look here, the temperature decreases. It is a 20 degrees C and then it is the 10 degrees C. Okay, so that means if the temperature decreases, then expansion occur, and this expansion the due to the air cooling. Eventually the parcel of air will stabilize. Warming from below reduces stability. The decrease in temperature as you go up in altitude is known as the lapse rate. We will discuss in details what is the lapse rate. Okay, so the average lapse rate means with increasing the altitude. That means when altitude is increasing, then what happened, the temperature is decreased. Okay, this is called actually lapse rate. Is it colder in town or at the top of the peak? Okay, so how much? This is a very good question. So when we go to the in case of any hill station, okay, then what you see, there the temperature is a little bit colder than with respect to a town, obviously. Okay, this is actually due to lapse rate. Okay, so water vapor is lighter than air. Adding moisture causes a parcel of air to rise. Moist air cools at a slower rate than dry air. This is the very common fact, all of you know very well. So now the actual lapse rate we'll discuss in details. Again, that there are two types of lapse rates are there. Okay, here in small, look here that less in moisture as low as that it is the 1.1 degrees C or 2 degree Fahrenheit to higher, like if it is the moist air, the lapse rate will be approximately 1.1 degrees C. But if it is higher in dry air, if the air is the dry, then lapse rate will be higher. It will be approximately 3 degrees C or 5.4 degree of Fahrenheit. Okay, so that means lapse rate very much dependent on the how much moisture present, or the water or the air is the dry or not. Okay, so in these factors actually lapse rate depends on. So then temperature inversion. Okay, what is the temperature inversion? So that normally that atmosphere is cooler at higher altitude. This is the adiabatic lapse rate. Okay, so what happens if a parcel of warm air ends up above the parcel of cool air? This is the temperature inversion. Okay, inversion require stable condition to form. Additionally, inversion are a stable atmosphere. So this is the process and this is the temperature inversion. How can an inversion happen? In the night time, in the night time, that nighttime cooling at the earth surface causes the air near the surface to cool below the air higher up. Okay, a colder air mass moves under a warm air mass or vice versa. Okay, that means colder air mass, it can move under warm air mass, or its opposite may be possible. So this process is called actually temperature inversion. So look, this is the process of the temperature inversion. There are different kinds of examples are there. Okay, now humidity. What is the humidity? Humidity is actually a moisture, okay, or the water in the form of moisture, okay, so in the air. This is called the humidity. Now a relative humidity is measured in between 0% to 100%. Okay, so relative humidity is measured in between 0 to 100%. What happens at 100% humidity? Okay, so 100% humidity means the air is full of moisture. Okay, so it is full of moisture. When the humidity is 100%, then it is the actually full of moisture or the condensation. Okay, like then what happened, then clouds, fog, different kinds of things happen. Different kinds of things dependent on the moisture of the air. Okay, so 100% humidity causes the condensation as the clouds or fog. The moisture beyond 100% humidity cannot remain as a gas or the vapor. Actually water moisture means it is a little bit in the type of vapor, isn't it? Okay, so if the moisture is in above 100% in the air, then it is not possible to be in the air. Okay, so cannot remain in the air, so and condensed out as liquid. That's why we get the precipitation or the rain. Okay, liquid water is visible. All of you know very well that liquid water is visible. It is known by many names like steam, clouds, fog, etc, etc. Okay, so this is the liquid air, so liquid water. So now in this way that the cloud or fog, it very much depends on the percentage of the humidity or the relative humidity. Mainly if it cross the 100%, then there are different forms are there which we observe in actually environment or the atmosphere. How much of water can a cubic foot of air hold? It depends. Okay, depends on the temperature of air and it depends on the pressure of the air. So that means also relative term is used. Actually, how much water can a cubic foot of air hold? So how much water is possible, because if a temperature is very high, then it will be expand, the air will be expand, then their capacity may vary. Okay, their moisture carrying capacity may vary, so it is not constant. In this way we can tell that this amount or this is the moisture content or it is a constant value. We can't predict in this way. So that's why it vary or it depends on mainly two factors. The first factor is the temperature and the second factor is the pressure. Pressure depends on altitude, all of you know very well. Now how much of water can air hold? So look here. So there are at sea level, at sea level pressure, air can hold that 9 gram H2O per cubic foot of air at 10 degrees C. There are different, what I told you, that depends on the temperature and pressure. And there are some examples actually which from which you can understand that how much possible water can carry in the cubic foot. Look, there at 10 degrees C, this is 9 gram H2O per cubic. At 20 degrees C, 17 gram, and at 30 degrees C, that is the 30 gram. Look what I told you, that with increasing the temperature, what happened, the air expand. So that's why look here, that 9, 17, 30, in this way the amount of the moisture that is increasing. Okay, if the temperature is lower than 10 degrees C, this is very important. If the temperature is lower than 10 degrees C, the air can hold only 9 gram of water vapor and 8 gram of water will condense as water droplets. The relative humidity will still be 100%. Okay, because this is the carrying capacity is vary, that's why relative humidity will still be at 100%. So if the same cubic foot in air warms to 30 degrees C, if it is warm, that means its temperature will be increased to 30 degrees C, then the 17 gram of water vapor will produce a relative humidity of 56%. Okay, so relative humidity will reduce to the 56%, and 17 gram of 17 gram is 56% of the 30 gram of air cloud hold at this temperature. A cubic foot of air, there are some examples are there for to clarify your confusion. Okay, so a cubic foot of air with 17 grams of water vapor at 20 degrees C each saturation, you know, this is the maximum capacity. So obviously that 100% humidity, what is the meaning of 100% humidity? 100% humidity means its maximum capacity, isn't it? So if it reaches its maximum capacity, then obviously 100% at particular temperature. So that means, you know, that a cubic foot of air with 17 grams of water vapor at 20 degrees C is at saturation. So it's 100% relative humidity. So any further cooling, if you cool the air, cooling will cause the condensation. That's very simple. If for any reason, if air is saturated with the moisture, then if you cool down, if first of all, if you increase the temperature, then air expands, then its relative humidity will be decreased. First of all, very simple thing. Okay, 100% to it will be reduced. But if you condense, if you cool the air, if your temperature is decreased, then what happen? Then condensation occurred, like fog, clouds, dew, etc. forms, and thus 20 degrees C the dew point for the situation. Okay. So in this way, actually cloud or fog is generated or the formed. Okay, so you have to keep in mind the process by which this humidity acts. That humidity is very important. Relative humidity is very important, and from this relative humidity, it helps us to predict the foggy day or the day which will be full of fog, the morning, or the cloud formation, etc. So now dew point, a better question, that at what temperature does air reach 100% humidity? Obviously at dew point. Okay, so you have to keep in mind that at dew point it reaches to the 100% humidity. The dew point is the temperature at which air will be saturated. Okay, so dew point, what I told you, the dew point is the temperature where air will be saturated. In other words, if we cool the air to the dew point, it will become saturated, like fog, clouds, etc. Okay, what I told you, this temperature is called dew point when it gets saturated. It is reported for every airport in the meter. Okay, so in every airport it is reported, because this information is very important in the airport. So temperature or dew point speed. So the difference between reported temperature and the dew point, when the spread is 4 degrees C and decreasing, fog and low clouds are likely because the air near saturation. Now cloud classification, there is a low cloud. Low cloud means cloud are grouped into the 4 types based on their altitudes. Like for one is the low clouds, like it is the surface, or the another is the middle cloud. Okay, so high cloud, there are also another things, the high cloud, like above this portion, the clouds with vertical development. Okay, these are different kinds of cloud classification. This is the basic types of the cloud. Now come to the point, lapse rate. Okay, so there are mainly 2 types of lapse rate: environmental lapse rate and the adiabatic lapse rate, or there is another name also, that ambient lapse rate for the environmental lapse rate. They're the same thing. So first of all, what is the lapse rate? A lapse rate is the rate at which temperature of the atmosphere decreases as the altitude increases. Okay, so a lapse rate is the rate at which temperature of the atmosphere decreases as the altitude increases. The lapse rate tells us that how much temperature is decreasing, the higher in the air we get. The higher you are in the atmosphere, the colder will be the temperature. So generally we can express the lapse rate as the dt by dA. The equation represents the decreasing change in the temperature over the change in the altitude. Okay, so actually with the changing the height or the altitude, look here, the temperature is decreasing in this way. Okay, so this is the way by which we are getting that getting the point. Okay, So now with increasing, we look here that with increase, if height increases, the in this point the temperature is here, but if height decreases here, there the temperature is actually here. Okay, so this is the difference between two areas. So this graph explains that how the temperature decreases with increasing the altitude. Now environmental lapse rate. What is the environmental lapse rate? The rate at which air temperature decreases with elevation. Okay, this is the environmental lapse rate. This refers to the rate of the temperatures decreasing when it is not being affected by the saturation of water vapor in the atmosphere. However, it can be affected by the stability of the air. This is very important, that stability of the air can affect the process. If the rising air parcel is cooler than environment, then it's heavier and does not rise, therefore it is stable. Air is unstable when air will be stable, when air will be unstable. Air is unstable when air parcel is warmer and rises because it's higher than its environment. Environmental lapse rate decreases faster when air is unstable than stable. Different form of adiabatic lapse rate, because adiabatic is the rate at which temperature decreases with altitude when air is either moist or cold, and measured by a balloon device called the Reddy's node. Okay, so this is the process by which we can measure the environmental lapse rate. Now adiabatic lapse rate. What is the adiabatic lapse rate? That adiabatic lapse rate is adiabatic lapse rate is basically adiabatic lapse rate basically. It is basically that adiabatic lapse rate is basically, it is the environmental lapse rate being affected by the saturation of the atmosphere. Air is moist when it is saturated by water vapor, and dry when is not much water vapor. Like environment, adiabatic can be affected when atmosphere is stable or not stable. The dry versus adiabatic, dry adiabatic versus moist adiabatic, I also discussed in the in one slide, that what is the effect of the moisture or what is the effect of the increasing the temperature with the presence of moisture. So with the dry, when the atmosphere is stable, the adiabatic rate decreases faster with altitude than the environmental lapse rate, but not by much. If the adiabatic rate is dry during a stable atmosphere, then the temperature decreases much faster than both moist adiabatic rate and the environmental lapse rate. And if atmosphere was unstable, the dry adiabatic would be slower than the environmental, and the moist adiabatic would be slower than both dry and the environmental. Okay, so this is the process by which we can explain all these things. What is air pollution control? Air pollution control, the techniques employed to reduce or eliminate the emission into the atmosphere of substances that can harm the environment or human health. That means, in the air there are some kinds of particles or particulates present which can harm our body, which can create some problem in the environment for animal, for plants, etc., etc. So air pollution control mean it is one kind of technique by which we can reduce the emission of such kind of gases or the particles, or we can eliminate from the air. The control of air pollution is one of the principal area of pollution control, along with wastewater treatment, solid waste management, and hazardous waste management. That means we already discussed about the other class that what is the solid waste management, wastewater treatment, etc., etc. So with all these things also, air pollution control is also another important point or the technique by which we have to control the pollution control. So we have to keep in mind that air pollution control also very, very important from this point of view with other pollution control. So you know that this is the rough picture of the top 20 polluted sites there. So now contribution from where maximum, because when we want to control the pollution, then we have to think about that what are the contribution of the pollution from each and every sector, each and every site. So if you look it carefully, then look here that from agriculture there are approximately 10% pollution came from the agriculture. Okay, there chemicals and residential heating, there 1% pollution come from there. Okay, consumer and commercial products, there 8% pollution come from there. The transportation, approximately 27% pollution is there. But most alarming side is the industry. Their contribution is the maximum. Okay, so 52% contribution came from the industrial side. So when we have to control the air pollution, then we have to think about that from where maximum pollution come to the environment, and we have to target this area. So in this way, industrial pollution is maximum, so we have to target our concentration should be maximum on the industrial pollution side. Okay, other pollutions are also there. Agriculture, you know, there are some pesticides are used in the agriculture side. Okay, so there are such kinds of pollution also there. Other means here, you know, some kinds of natural events are there, like volcanoes or like this. So there are also some kind of contribution. Commercial and residential, very less amount, 1%. So, and transportation, this is very important, because you know this area is covered by the vehicle. Okay, there is a dangerous gases are produced or coming out from the vehicles. So during the transportation system, so the transportation has the significant contribution in the air pollution, and we should avoid about this fact. So this is the overall chart by which we can roughly understand that from where maximum pollution come to the environment. So now what is the control? Control means, first of all, what is the control? Control of particulate or control or dangerous gases. That be some dangerous gases are there which we have to control to mix with the air. Okay, so look that this is a very funny but very important and very alarming picture is this, that there will be a time when you know there we have to carry the oxygen cylinder. Even fresh air will not be there, and oxygen will not be free. We have to buy the oxygen and we have to carry the oxygen if we destroy the plant. So that's why here it is a very informative picture. Okay, or very alarming picture, that if we cut down the trees nowadays, after 50 or 60 years, there will be situation when even oxygen will not be free for us. So that's why we have to control the generation of the air pollution. Okay, so in anyhow there are so many processes there, we'll discuss one by one. So but before that we have to think about that in each and everyday life we should. So you know how industries or power plant contribute, okay, to fight the air pollution. Okay, trapping of the pollutants at the source. That means you know there are some kinds of contribution of the industries also there by which their pollution came to the environment. So we have to control their second thing. There is another thing, I will discuss all that things in details in the next class. But now look at the picture. This is the cyclone separator. Okay, so cyclone separator is very important, and this cyclone separator we can control the generation of the air pollution. Okay, this is the rough diagram of the cyclone separator. This is the way by which we can control or we can remove the pollutants from the air. So cyclone separator I'll discuss in details. Okay, then another is a scrubber. What is the scrubber? So in the scrubber, by scrubber also we can remove all the air pollutants. Okay, so spray tower scrubber can remove look here, the 90% of the particulates larger than about 8 micrometer. So larger than 8 micrometer size, we can remove the particles from the air approximately 90%. Okay, this is very good instrument. Then electrostatics precipitator, then this is the another thing which also may be very much useful, by which we can remove all the particles from the air. Then electrostatic precipitator it is the electric charge to particulate, remove particulates by the electric field. DC voltage is used for charging the particles, can remove the particles as small as 1 micrometer. So look, there previous where we use the 10 above the 10 micrometer, 8 micrometer scrubber, but here it is more effective because it use the approximately 1 micrometer size. It can efficiently remove, and look the percentage, it approximately 99% is able to remove the particles. The effectiveness of the electrostatic precipitators and removing the fly ash from the combustion gases of fossil fuel furnaces accounts for their high frequency of use at the power station. Okay, so baghouse filter, this is very important. A fabric filter dust collector can remove very nearly 100% of the particles as small as 1 micrometer. So look there, this is very important because the particle size 1 micrometer, this is also able to remove the particles from the air. And the fabric filter dust collector, actually it with the help of this, and a significant fraction of the particles is smaller as 0.01 micrometer. So it is another thing is that energy usage is very high. Okay, so there the energy usage is very high in the baghouse filter. Okay, so in this way we can remove the particles. There are so many process by which we by this process we can remove all the particles from the air. Okay, so here air should be cooled. Okay, so by this process we can remove it. Okay, so there are some control of gases like absorption, adsorption, condensation and incineration process. Absorption means it includes the transfer of gases, pollutants from the air into a containing liquid such as the water. So by the absorption, it includes the transfer of gaseous pollutants from the air into the contacting liquid such as water. So by this process we can control the generation of the air pollution, control the generation of the air pollution. Adsorption, when a gas or vapor is brought into contact with a solid. Part of this is the adsorption, means adsorption actually happen in the surface. Okay, and absorption means it happens in the bulk. So that's why in the previous case it was in the liquid absorb the particles, but here look here in the adsorption process there will be solid, because the surface is the most active. Like there's a picture like carbon bed. Okay, this carbon bed, the surface of the carbon bed will be more active, which can adsorb the particles or particulates which present there. Okay, so in this process also we can remove the particles from the air. Then condensation is the process of the converting a gas or vapor to liquid. Any gas can be reduced to a liquid by lowering its temperature and increasing its pressure. So this is the process by which we can condense a gas. Okay, so this process help us to condense a gas. Condensation are typically used as the pre-treatment devices. They can be used ahead of adsorbers and incinerators. Okay, to reduce the total gas volume to be treated by more expensive control equipments. Condenser used for pollution control are contact condensers and surface condensers. Okay, so there are two types of condenser, but this is not important. The important fact is that by condensation process we can also we can condense the gases to liquid, and then we can use the another process which we discussed previously. Now incinerator also known as the combustion. Simple combustion is most used to control the emission of the organic compounds from the process of industries. Okay, so there are different kinds of organic compounds which are coming out from the industries. Okay, these organic compounds we can destroy by the incineration process. Okay, so this is also very much important. So by this process we can control the generation of the air pollution. And in the next class we'll discuss about the some specific type of instrument by which we can remove the particles from the air, or in our daily life what we have to do such that we can control the generation of the air pollution, or we have to control the air pollution. What you have to do in our daily life, with some discussion of the particular instrument like bag house, like cyclone separator, etc, etc. Okay, so but before that you have to read all that things which we discussed today, and you should have some sound knowledge of these topics. Then only it will be possible to apply in your daily life. The knowledge will be very much important, not only for exam purpose, you have to apply it in your daily life. Okay, so that's all for today. Thanks for watching this video, and meet with you in the next class with a different topic. Take care. Goodbye.